Yo, what's up, guys? Today's topic is ENTJ 8. Ha! I'm still going. I'm still fucking doing it, okay? Okay. So, so yeah, ENTJ 8, right? Yes, why a fucking video on this combination? Why bother? I've had people talk about this. I've had people wanted me to talk about this, and also, it's everywhere. This combination is talked about everywhere. People are confused. Is it true? Is it not true? Does it exist or does not exist? So I want to break it down myself to show you guys if it is possible or maybe it's not, or what the fuck is going on. So first, let's start with the type 8. You need to understand two pieces of the element to really understand the fucking whole picture. So with eights, as you guys know, I've heard this. I've said this thing so many times. But okay. So we know that eights are not are focused on the present. We also know that they are not really. They sort of reject the past and the future, meaning they are neglectful of it, neglectful of the future, neglectful of the past. Because what matters really is grasping in the present moment in order to gain satisfaction. And the key word is immediate satisfaction. So this leads to the desire of instant gratification, which then leads to impatience. Because if you want an instant gratification, you want to go, 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 that will lead to impatience. And impatience will lead to what? Impulsivity. So that's kind of the cycle of type 8. Now, you already see where I'm going with this, right? So you also know that 8s are again focused on the immediate. They're an excessive person that's focused on that sensory stimuli in an external world. They're concrete and very grounded. That's the most important thing to remember about type 8s. Now, the idea of ENTJ working with this is if you would absolutely completely abandon NI. Even with TE, you're fucked, to be honest with you, but I'm gonna explain later. You would have to absolutely abandon NI, like make it into non-existent thing, like remove it, make it lower in the stack. Because why would a type that has auxiliary NI, a type that has tertiary SE, and they clearly prioritize intuition over sensing, would dismiss the future? Why would they dismiss the future? Why would they be so impatient? Why would they be so impulsive? Why would they need that instant gratification that makes them act out in stupidest ways, makes them act impulsive, makes them act irrational? Because once again, guys, let's understand, eights are not a rational type, they're an irrational type. That's another thing people don't seem to understand, and I want to touch on that. I've been watching Arcane. Yesterday, I've binged Arcane with my girlfriend. And I was watching, there's this character called Silco. And I've heard people use him as an example of an INTJ like 8. And I'm thinking to myself, he's probably not an 8. I didn't even watch the show, that's what I thought to myself. I watched the show now, and he is the last thing that you could imagine an 8 to be. Right? He is not at all physical. From what I'm seeing, he's quite avoidant of action, of putting himself in the nitty-gritty action. He is not impulsive. In fact, he's very methodical. He's a long-term thinker. He's visionary, and he's ideological. So you see all those qualities. Not only he's also repressed. To me, he seems extremely repressed in his emotional and anger department. So I'm thinking to myself, how can a community see this individual, this character, and type him as a 8? What does that mean about us as a community? It means that we're not in a good place. That's what it means when it comes to typing 8s. We're in a very bad fucking place. Very bad place. Because he's if I was to type him, he'd either be a 1 or a 6. There are two only possibilities for that guy. Although I'm probably going to lean on 1. Once I finish the show, I'm going to analyze it further. But anyway, that's an example of that kind of weird notion that people have about the fucking type. No, this type is not going to be focused on the future. No, they're not going to be prioritizing. They won't prioritize intuition over sensory immediate satisfaction. It's not going to happen. And let's not forget, 8s are action over intellect over feeling. So action, thinking, and feeling last. Okay, that's most important to remember, guys. Now, people might argue with me. Well, Okay, what about ENTJ TESE? And that's okay, Of course, ENTJ with a high NI, you're mistyped. 100,000,000%, you're absolutely mistyped. You maybe haven't really studied the system. You don't, how, again, those are two such contradictory statements, concepts, and maybe you haven't had the right resources or something. So, okay, that's fair play, no problem. Now, with ENTJ TSE, we can argue there's plausibility. There's more of a plausibility, but still doesn't really line up. TSE, it would be extroverted thinking and sensory type in Jung. ETS. Now, that's what people like to. There were some people in personality database who were arguing, yeah, this is the archetype of weight, and I've had genuinely people tell me this is the archetype. It fits even more than extrovert sensation because, and then they've read something like Jung saying that this is really easygoing type, and then they use it as an understanding, and that's my problem. That's my actual attitude with people who think theory equals the truth. Now I want to tell you something. Theory does not equal the truth. The truth equals reality. Reality equals the truth. Okay? Not theory. Remember that. If I am observing something in the real world and now I'm going to create a theory based on what I'm seeing, that is the truth. The theory is based on what I'm seeing. If you're just creating a theory and trying to be like, oh, let's see, maybe it will fit the reality, and it fucking doesn't. How can you claim the theory is correct? It isn't. It has to align. Now, that's the problem with this kind of people, right? Where is the example? Where are the examples of those ETS ENTJs? Come on, name me a few. Name me 5. Name me 10 modern observable examples when anyone can just watch and learn. But again, this is not going to happen. So, the problem with this combination is that people try to use Ichazo's work to justify this existence. Okay? Well, Ichazo talked about justice and the aid trying to instill justice and will act accordingly, which does align a bit with the extroverted thinking in Jung. Now, that's the only way they can make it work. If you take into consideration anything of Naranjo, it contradicts completely. Because if you read extroverted thinking, which is a type that is actually type 1 archetype, very rigid. It's a thinking type first, so they're all about making sure the world fits their intellectual criteria, the intellectual rules, intellectual world. It's all very heady types, all very like intellectual type in a sense where they make sure everything is fitting certain principles and certain rigidity. So they're very rigid and inflexible individuals rather than the immediate individuals who want to grasp at sensation in all forms, by the way, not just hedonism, but struggle, for example, fighting for something and feeling that feeling of aliveness, whatever it may be. It's just extroverted thinking first doesn't really align with it. So that's kind of the take on that combination. And yes, if you use each other's work, sure. And you can tell me, well, in theory it makes sense. Again, I will tell you again, cool. That's really cool, but reality doesn't really align. And I can tell you guys, I have got a 22 or so and 24 maybe by now examples, modern examples of type 8. And I could not find a single one. I think that was a extroverted thinking, sensory type ENTJ in that in that sample. And those were all examples you can Google, all examples you can watch in hours of interviews upon hours of interviews to learn better and more about them. So it's not like I cherry picked or I made sure it's just some selective people no one knows. No. Very accessible information. And if such combination that ENTJ 8 exists, I want to be shown proof of it. Show me evidence. Show me examples, and I'll believe it. Because if I see it, I cannot disbelieve it. But don't tell me something about theory that maybe you pieced it together. Doesn't really prove anything. So that's my take on it. Okay. Now, conclusion is simple. If you're an ENTJ and you think your NI is really high, and you are an 8, you're mistyped. Go look for another type, maybe 1 or 3. Now, if you are an ENTJ and you think you actually are like this combination of TESE, the likelihood of you being mistyped is an extremely high likelihood. And since we don't have an example in real life yet, I would consider that a mistype. But again, I'm open. I'm open to the possibility of being wrong, because I was wrong many times in my life, and I don't want to look like a fucking idiot, which I probably might look like a fucking idiot. But the point is, fuck it. Sometimes we need to make statements to, in the end, find out the truth, right? So that's my take on the whole ENTJ8 phenomenon. Okay. Peace out.